New arrival Jody clashes with Nick in Coronation Street as she conceals a major secret. There are plenty of dramatic ways for a new face to appear on Coronation Street, but being on the run from notorious Ordale villain Graham Foster is surely one of the most outrageous. After viewers get over the confusion of why a long-dead soap bad guy has seemingly risen from the dead to abduct women in a white van, attention will quickly turn to the mystery newcomer herself. Just who is Jod, and what has brought her to Weatherfield? The truth may not be far off, as Sharpied fans have already noticed something curious. Jod bears a tattoo that perfectly matches one worn by Shona Platt. Suddenly, the storyline becomes far more intriguing. Coincidentally, Shona and David Platt were also caught up in the same horrific crash on that fated night in the Yorkshire Dales. The past year has been anything but smooth for the couple following the devastating revelation that their unborn child had a cancerous tumor that could only be treated through extremely risky surgery for Shona. Despite the emotional turmoil, the pair leaned on one another and, with the support of loved ones, managed to emerge stronger. However, their journey home from Debbie Webster's wedding ended in disaster when their minibus was involved in a catastrophic collision. Both were rushed to hospital, where Shona went into labor and where fate is set to bring her face to face with the woman who shares her distinctive ink. In upcoming scenes, Jod begins hovering around the Platt as they anxiously await delicate surgery that could save their baby's life. After pocketing a soft toy, Jod makes her way to Shona's hospital room. She later runs into David in the corridor and casually asks about the baby, leaving viewers to wonder what she's really up to. Answers begin to surface once back on the street when Kit Green fills Lisa Swain in on the unsettling girl he encountered after the crash. Her wrists tied and fear written all over her face. Elsewhere, David and Shona are quietly looking through photos of their newborn when the door suddenly swings open. Enter Jody. Rather than spoiling the surprise outright, it's enough to say that Jod soon reveals she's someone from Shona's past and that she too was involved in the crash. David and Shona are left completely stunned by the revelation. Later on, David finds Jod having a panic attack in the hospital car park and, acting on impulse, offers her a place to stay. Jod couldn't be happier. Before long, Jod settles comfortably into life at the Platt household, quickly bonding with Bethany and Lily. But from the very beginning, it's clear that Nick Tilsley won't be quite so easy to win over. He's left shocked when he drops by while David is out and discovers a stranger living at number 8. When David and Shona finally return home, they're met with a tense standoff between Nick and Jod. She's certainly wasted no time making enemies. So, what is Jod really after? And could Nick be the one who uncovers her hidden agenda? Coronation Street death all but confirmed as fresh twist deepens Coryale fallout. Coronation Street fans are increasingly convinced that another shocking death could be just around the corner as the drama intensifies. The legendary ITV soap teamed up with Ordale on Monday night for its historic crossover episode Coryale, a one-off event that delivered devastating consequences for multiple characters. The hour-long special saw popular resident Billy Mayhew meet a tragic end after being caught in a horrific motorway pileup on the return journey from Debbie Webster's wedding. While Billy lost his life, several other passengers were left seriously injured, leaving the street reeling in the aftermath of the disaster. In the nerve-shredding build-up to the crash, Kevin Webster uncovered a damning secret. His own brother, Carl, had been behind the hit and run earlier in the year that left Tyrone Dobbs permanently unable to walk. Kevin attempted to expose Carl's actions during the wedding celebrations, but his efforts fell flat, allowing Carl to escape accountability once again. Matters took a far darker turn when Carl, heavily intoxicated, got behind the wheel later that night. In a desperate bid to save himself after the crash, he cruelly framed his dementia-stricken sister Debbie by placing her in the driver's seat while she was unconscious, ensuring suspicion would fall on her instead. Kevin's personal turmoil only added fuel to the fire, having already endured the breakdown of his marriage to Abby earlier this year after learning of her affair with Carl. At the close of the crossover episode, Kevin was shown wrestling with an unthinkable decision whether to switch off Carl's life support machine and let fate take its course. In the end, he stepped back, unable to follow through. The following episode revealed that Carl had regained consciousness, with doctors explaining that an undiagnosed heart condition had caused him to go into shock after the crash. Almost immediately, Debbie insisted that she had been driving the vehicle, seemingly accepting blame for the tragedy. Kevin was horrified by her confession and tried to argue that the seatbelt bruising told a very different story. However, Debbie refused to hear him out, shutting down the conversation and insisting that she would not relive the ordeal while firmly declaring the accident her fault and not Carl's. Although Debbie ordered Kevin to leave the hospital, his anger and desperation drove him straight back to Carl's bedside. Overcome with rage, Kevin accused Carl of manipulating Debbie's fragile mental state and lying to protect himself, questioning whether Carl had even checked if Debbie was alive before moving her. Kevin also confessed that he had stood beside Carl's hospital bed the day before, admitting that for a brief moment, he had considered letting the machines keeping him alive fall silent. Carl reacted with cold amusement, mocking Kevin and claiming that when the alarms began sounding, he assumed karma had finally caught up with him. Scoffing at the idea of justice, Carl smugly pointed out that he was still alive. Kevin responded with a chilling remark of his own, hinting darkly that Carl's survival might not last as long as he thought. The episode ended on a haunting note, with Debbie staring into a mirror as the realization slowly dawned that the seatbelt bruising on her body was on the correct side, proving Kevin had been telling the truth all along. The moment strongly implied that Carl had deliberately framed his vulnerable sister, leaving her to shoulder the blame. In the wake of the explosive scenes, viewers flooded social media with reactions, many expressing their hope that Kevin would ultimately be responsible for Carl's downfall. One fan wrote on X that they wanted Kevin to beat Carl to death with a spanner from Webster's garage for abandoning Debbie in the driver's seat. Another demanded that Kevin kill Carl with his bare hands once the full truth emerged. Other viewers were convinced that medical evidence would soon expose Carl's lies, with one pointing out that injury patterns would clearly identify who was sitting where during the crash. Meanwhile, fans who watched early on ITVX vented their frustration that Carl had survived at all, while others bluntly questioned why he was still breathing. Aside from a non-canon Children in Need crossover with EastEnders, Coryale marked the first official time Coronation Street, which debuted more than a decade before Ardale, crossed over with another soap. The morning after broadcast, viewing figures confirmed the special episode had been a major triumph, peaking at 4.7 million viewers and averaging 4.2 million across the hour. Those numbers represent the strongest overnight performance for any soap in more than a year and the biggest peak audience since 2022, excluding Christmas Day episodes. Coronation Street airs on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. on ITV1 and streams on ITVX.